Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Love Your Life Health Seminar. And my name is Maury Mungeon, and I just want to welcome everyone who was able to join us. I thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know there's so many things you can do on today, although it's raining here, but we definitely thank you for being a part of this seminar. I do want to let you know that before I open up with the word of prayer, I just want to tell you to grab a pencil and a paper because it's so much information that's going to be shared this afternoon. You don't want to miss anything. So without further ado, let us bow our heads and have a word of prayer. Father in heaven, we thank you so much for just giving us the opportunity to come before you, Father. And Lord, we thank you for life that you've given us, Father. And you want nothing best from us than to live life to the fullest. So we thank you for this seminar. We thank you, Lord, for those that have logged in to be a part of this seminar. We want to first pray for all the presenters that are prepared to present. May you guide all of our words and control our minds and our thoughts. And then we want to pray that the words and the information that's given will be received well from the hearers, those who are logging in to learn something. So we thank you for the time where we all can learn a little bit. So we ask for your guidance. We ask for your presence to be felt. And then we just thank you in advance for what you're about to do. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I will now turn the program over to Brother McCoy.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Carlton McCoy, and I will be your moderator this afternoon at the Love Your Life Health Fair, which is sponsored by Light Bearers Mission Seventh-day Adventist Church. Again, we want to thank you for joining us. And as was mentioned by Elder Mungeon, there will be so much that will be presented today. We would like to have more time, but time is limited, but it's going to be packed with much information. We pray that you might learn, you might grow. We hope to share health information that you can use today and beyond today. During the presentation, you will also have the opportunity to fill out questionnaires that will let you know what your health age is. The results then will be emailed to you and will include tips on how to improve your health age if you need to know or would like to know. We will make sure we put the health age questionnaire into the chat if it's not already on our website. You'll also have the opportunity to have a health partner. This health partner will be able to support you with any lifestyle changes you might want to make prior to the health fair and after the presentations that you will receive today, again, which will be packed with so much information to help you during not only this time during the COVID-19, but beyond COVID-19, and how the Lord has planned for us to live our lives in preparation for his return. To be able to live a healthy life, a life that will be able to glorify him. You'll also find the links for these, again, as I mentioned, in the chat or on our website that had the meeting details. So we want to introduce our first presenter, and this is Dr. Sharps. Dr. Sharps, and I'm going to pull this up for me, myself it is. Dr. Sharps has a, he will be presenting for us of how we can live healthier, age, and I don't want to give too much. We pray that you will be paying attention and you'll get all the information you need. So without any further ado, I want to introduce you to Dr. Jim Sharps. Amen.
Thank you very much, Elder McCoy. And let me welcome everyone as well to the LBMSDA Church Love Your Life Health Seminar. And as Elder McCoy said, this is an action-packed day. So I hope you have your herbal tea there with some honey so you have all your energy. And there's going to be quite a bit that we're going to be covering today, but you're going to be able to participate in it all. These are the activities, as he said, we're going to talk. I'm going to be giving a health empowerment presentation, but that presentation is going to be done with commercials so that we'll break it up. We're going to be talking about some key topics, which I'll show you on the next slide in a second. And then we're going to have a cooking demo. We're going to have an offer for a health partner, and you show you how you can that can help you to navigate through your health empowerment journey, your health age versus your biological age. I want to do that one too. And all of your questions will be answered. Put them in the chat, write them down. Anything we don't get a chance to cover, I'm going to show you at the end how we're going to answer all of your questions. And we're going to invite you to participate in an ongoing health community. So this is the purpose of this time, these couple hours that we're spending together, is to give you some practical applications for the most powerful system known to man for preventing and reversing all chronic degenerative diseases. It's going to be a practical application. So as the title indicated, you can be personally empowered during this pandemic and any other pandemics that are coming down the road. So with that, these are the kind of topics I want to cover. I want to talk about the pandemic. How serious is the current pandemic? And I'm going to do a quick comparison to the pandemic of 1918, about 100 years ago. We're going to spend some time understanding allopathic versus original medicine. And I'll define these terms for you. We're going to understand the role of germs in the disease process, the 10 underlying causes for all diseases. We're going to understand what percent does food really contribute to your overall health and vitality. Think about that question. How much does food contribute? We're going to cover that. Other factors also, how do they contribute to health and vitality? And we're going to show you the mathematical rationale by how you get to those percentages. Then we're going to talk about what are some of the most powerful natural PPEs for all the viruses, PPE being personal protective equipment. So we're going to show you how you can use natural protocols for the most powerful PPE known to man. And we're going to talk about what are some good things that are making some people worse, or what are some good things that people are doing wrongly. And then what are some powerful items in your natural first aid kit? So we're going to talk about that. And then we're going to wrap up with what is the most powerful assessment tool for measuring your personal health and vitality. So with that, let's get started. And first, I just want to kind of summarize. It's kind of interesting. Today was an interesting day. I'm becoming a Zombie zombie. I'm in actually 4 different places today at one time. I started this morning in Europe. I'm here now working with Maryland, in Florida, and later on I'm going to be in Australia, all through Zoom. So one of the presentations I covered was on these lessons learned. Now that was an hour presentation. I'm only going to spend about a minute and some kind of some summary things for the purposes of this meeting. But there were 5 key lessons that we learned from the 1918 pandemic. First of all, the Spanish flu pandemic remains the worst in the world history. Viruses weren't even discovered up until 1930, so they didn't even know it was a virus. Testing wasn't just hard to come by, it simply didn't exist. And there are several parallels, though, between the vaccine, between the pandemic in 100 years ago, in 1918, and today. There was no vaccines available then. There's no vaccine available now. There's a promise of one. No effective treatment. The health system was stressed back then. Many of the health professionals, they succumbed. And so so people just panicked. Even the healthcare wasn't available. If you notice in the earlier part, our systems were stressed as well. Everybody was running to the doctors, running to the hospitals. And so one of the things I hope to convey today is help you to be empowered in these times of increasing problems with availability of healthcare and affordability, and just wanted to be empowered to take care of your own health. And then the fourth thing, that was a lesson that was learned, that the most immediate effective response in both cases was social distancing. They call it overcrowding and crowd control back in those days. And then there's the most important lesson of all. I'm going to save that till the end, though. So let's move on, though. Let's talk about the Spanish flu. And I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on the numbers, but if you see up here, the Spanish flu affected 1/3 of the world's population. That was a true pandemic. As I said, that it was far worse than what we're going through now. Here's some summary figures over here where it shows US deaths versus worldwide. You can see that 50 million, actually the numbers range from 50 million to 199 million. So it was pretty significant, whereas 675,000 in the United States. And then you can see there are 3 milder pandemics in 57, 68, 2009. And these days, they're pretty much on a 10-year schedule. And then COVID-19, it's about, I think the latest figures are around 212,000. I did this, I put these figures together from last week. It was about 210,000, and the worldwide deaths were 1 million. A little bit different context. I'm not going to go through all these figures, just the highlighted figures. I just wanted to show the top numbers represent the world situation, 1.8 billion, and the deaths, 3 to 5%. That's pretty significant. COVID-19, 7.8 billion people now, and it's 0.01%. You can see major difference. And then down at the bottom, there were 106 million people in the United States back in 1918 with 0.64%, which is fairly significant. And you can see not as bad in terms of percentage of deaths. Of course, every death is significant, but 0.06% compared to 0.64%. The striking thing to notice, though, and one of the reasons why you might want to focus on this presentation, if you look at the worldwide pandemic and the United States response in the upper section, it was only 0.01% of the US population back then, if you notice, if you can see that there, but in versus 3.5%, whereas 0.06% to the 0.64%, but so significantly worse, which shouldn't surprise you. Of all the developed countries, the United States ranks 37th in health outcomes. So there's a real incentive to be empowered to take care of your own health. So in summary, in the 1918 pandemic, these are the kind of things that were characteristic: testing for symptoms, social distancing, quarantining. You see the list. Not very much different. In 2019, 100 years later, you see the same thing: social distancing, the quarantine, the shutting down of businesses, the face masking, hand washing. If anything, it's at an even higher level than it was before. But what I want to focus on is one of the major conclusions is that compared to 1918 pandemic, the COVID-19 is serious, but not necessarily fatal. And even the CDC is saying 94% of the COVID deaths had an underlying condition, and only 6%, according to their numbers, were COVID alone. I'll let you judge whether or not even that small percentage is accurate as we go through the presentation. And if you notice that 6% of 210,000 is 12,600 COVID deaths, which is similar. If you look over and for 20,000 and 2009, it was the same thing, 12.5 thousand. So you can see that the conclusion basically is saying that it was far worse in 1918, And 90%, this is one I want to key on, 90% who test positive now for COVID-19 are not symptomatic or contagious. This is their findings. So the question is, how do you become a part of the 90%? That's what we're going to be spending the rest of this presentation, the rest of this time together talking about. So we're going to take a commercial break right now and talk about the divine prescription for air and sunlight. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about how do you become part of the 90%? Allopathic, the allopathic disease model or conventional medicine versus the original medicine model. But right now, we're going to take a commercial break, and you're going to learn a little bit about sunlight and air. And then I'll be back.
Welcome everyone to our health fair. As the quote says here, that the life of the flesh is in the blood. So if the life of the flesh is in the blood, we want to produce good blood in order for us to have good health. And one of those things that we need to keep in mind in order to have good health and produce that good blood is sunshine. The wonderful benefits of sunshine. I don't think my full screen, yes. Okay, so we're going to be talking about sunshine today and its wonderful benefits that it has on our blood to give us optimal health. All right, so sunshine and the heart. Sunshine benefits the heart and blood vessels in the same way as exercise. So it's lowering that heart rate by toning up the heart muscle and other blood vessels, increasing their pump and their transport efficiency. It helps to even normalize blood pressure. It stimulates the production of our red blood cells, and it also helps in the red blood cells' capacity to carry more oxygen to our cells. One of the needs of the cell is oxygen. Without it, it will not be doing its proper function, and then disease set in. So we want to get out there in the sun. So sunshine on the lungs. Again, we talked about the red blood cells' capacity to carry more oxygen to our cells. So this is going to benefit our lungs in wonderful ways. So sunshine lowers our respiration rate, but the amazing thing, it's providing more oxygen to our cells. One single exposure to sun will greatly increase the oxygen content of the blood, and this effect will continue for several days. Sunshine filters through the air, the atmosphere, and what it does, it brings more negative ions, and these negative ions are what our body needs to function properly. And one example of negative ion will be oxygen. All right, so sunshine and our immune system. Sunshine is known to be one of the nature's germ killers, right? It's antiseptic, it kills bacteria, virus, fungi, yeast, molds, mites, you name it. It is one of nature's powerful germ killers. And not only is it doing that, but it's helping for our bodies to increase more of our white blood cells, help us fight off these different toxins and bacteria, anything that may come into our bodies. Another thing to keep in mind about sunshine, especially as we come closer to the flu season, and unfortunately the times that we're living in, but one thing that we know we get from the exposure of the sun is vitamin D. And what vitamin D does, it increases the production of this protein called cathelicidin. So when you have enough of this production of cathelicidin, it helps to fight off the different strains of the flu viruses in the flu season. All right, so we have sunshine and the digestive system. So sunshine has ability to penetrate into the organs and affect each cell. It increases the appetite. It helps your digestive juices to optimal production. And so as we are getting these enzymes and getting all of these things in, we're able to digest our food better. It helps in the balancing of our hormones, and it has a wonderful way of helping us in the treatment of food poisoning, stomach ache, indigestion, constipation, stomach ulcers, and different types of cancers as well. How about our liver? We know that our liver is very important to detox our body. So we want our liver to be in optimal health once again. So it helps us, the liver, by detoxing from a cellular level. Sunshine and the sleep. Sunshine regulates our sleep cycle. When sunlight hits your eyes, your optic nerve sends a signal to the gland in your brain, and that produces melatonin. So this is a hormone that helps you to sleep. So when your eyes get enough sun exposure during the day, it increases that natural melatonin production in the night. So you really want to get out there during the day, get your sunshine in, so that we can have a quality sleep, and you know your body detoxes and repair and build as you sleep. Sunshine and diabetes, another wonderful benefit. So sunshine regulates insulin sensitivity. Sunshine stimulates the beta cells of the pancreas to produce the insulin. It also stimulates what is called here the production of glycogen synthase, which takes the glucose from blood and stores it in as glycogen in the liver for further use. So we're talking about all these wonderful benefits of sunshine. So how do we get proper sun intake? Now in the summer months, you want to be careful to be out in the sun from the hours of 10 to 3. It's preferably if you get it before 10 and after 3. In the winter months, of course, we have less sunshine compared to the summer, so you want to get out there from 10 to 3 p.m. And it all depends on the pigment in our skin, right? Melanin, it all depends on where we are with that for the amount of sunshine that we need. So depending on where your melanin is, it's from 15 to 45 minutes. And you don't have to get it all in one time. You can go out at 5-minute increments. And so we might be worried about sunshine and its harmful benefits, but I can assure you and promise you that most of the time that sunshine becomes harmful, it's the harmful fats and the harmful diet that we partake of. So if we keep free from these harmful foods and eat abundance of vegetables, fruits, grains, and our healthier options, sunshine won't have such a bad effect on us. And keep in mind, but unto you that fear my name shall the Son of righteousness arise with healing in his wings, and ye shall go forth and grow up as calves of the staff. Micah 4 and verse 2, wonderful promise of the benefits of the sun. And at this time, Sister Merlene will be talking about air.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here. It's good to hear about the sunlight and how it benefits so much, and it's all free. We are going to now look at something else that's free to us, and that is air and the benefits of air. Okay, so pure air is what we want to have. And no one's going to say that they feel like they don't need air. We know that air is essential to our lives. It does vitalize the blood, helps it circulate through the body as it should. It also restores the mind. If you ever felt like you feel a little foggy, you get some air and it does restore. Fresh air also kills germs, and it keeps your lungs healthy. Again, your circulation is involved there. Sorry, going forward. And so how do we get fresh air? There are locations close to water, running water, and trees where the air is ideal, but when we are in our homes, there are ways that we can get good air. It's always good to keep your windows open, slightly open, especially at nighttime. Even when it's cold outside, it's good to just have some air coming in. It's good also to have plants in your home. With the chlorophyll, we get the air, the oxygen from the plants. And also, it's good to get your exercise out in the fresh air. So other ways we can benefit the most from air, from pure air, is to deep breathing through your nose. Now, I don't know if anyone ever told you how to breathe, but there is a proper way to breathe. Through your nose, when you inhale, your belly should protrude because the air is going in, and then when you exhale, through your mouth, it pushes it out. we're going to see a little bit more about the benefits of deep breathing. You do want to avoid being in a polluted environment where the air is not so great. And there's something about having trees in front of your house or leaves that are falling too close to the house. For one thing, those trees can prevent the air from getting to your house, prevent that circulation. And also, if it's wet and rainy, it can add moisture to your home, and that wouldn't be good. Also, if you want to avoid having fruits and vegetables or any kind of food that is spoiled in your home, that could emit some fumes that can not be good for your health, probably carrying some germs with it. And we know that your body, the circulation in your body needs to be good. And you can imagine if you're wearing clothing that are tight fitting, the circulation doesn't work well. It doesn't allow your body and doesn't allow you to breathe as best as you could. So benefits of deep breathing: it does soothe your nerves, and it stimulates your appetite. If you don't feel like you don't have an appetite, get some air, go for a walk, and that may help. And even your digestion is helped by deep breathing. It also induces sound, refreshing sleep. And we talked about the blood. It also promotes good blood. Again, that's going to be your circulation of your blood, keeping you much more alert. So we know that we get the breath of life from the Lord. He continues to give it to us daily. So let us thank him every day for the fresh air, the breath of life that he gives us. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Sharps.
Can you unshare your screen, Marlene?
Yes. Oh, it's on top. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
That was excellent. Let me see if I can get back here. Okay, so we've heard a little bit about the divine prescription for air and sunlight, and it's germicidal ability, both air and sunlight. And sun electrified air is a very powerful antiviral. And they're very important for digestive support, for the support of the liver, every organ of the body. We're going to talk about now, though, how do you become a part of that 90%, right? And we're going to look at the allopathic disease model versus the original medicine disease model. And what we're going to look at is some practical applications for air and sunlight. The two presenters gave you some very powerful ones, but I want to look at one in specifically. And we're going to look at first the role of germs in the disease process. And then we're going to kind of summarize the practical application. And a question I want you to think about, I told you at the very beginning, I asked the question, what percentage does food contribute to your health and vitality? What percentage of food? I'm going to ask a question now, though. What percentage does air contribute to your overall health and vitality? You heard that it's important, but how important is it? 5%? Is it 15%? Is it 90%? What is it? So we're going to talk about that. But first, let's talk about the allopathic versus the original medicine and what role does germs play in the disease process. So to do that, let's kind of first ask, what is disease in the two basic systems? In the allopathic model, it's defined as an abnormal condition of an organism which interrupts the normal bodily functions that often leads to feelings of pain and weakness, and usually associated with signs and symptoms. It's a signs and symptoms approach versus in the original medicine area, in the divine prescription, disease is an effort of nature to free the system from conditions that result from a violation of the laws of health. Let's look into this a little bit. But first, let's kind of have a definition of what original medicine is. You know what You know what allopathic medicine is? I keep mentioning original medicine. Original medicine draws its knowledge and power from the original author and creator of both the moral and natural laws. It's a powerful set of time-honored principles. You just saw 2 of them, 2 out of 8. And you saw the powerful germicidal effect of just 2. Just wait until you see what the full integrated approach and integrated comprehensive approach of these laws are. And these techniques for developing the whole person, not only the body, but the mind and the spirit. So we're focusing so much on pretty much on pandemics and COVID and preparedness and second phase, the third phase, whatever phase, the nth phase, the new phase. But this one has these principles affect everything, body, mind, and spirit. So in the original medicine model, you want to seek first the knowledge of the original knowledge giver, not necessarily the 3-letter words, the FDA and the NIH and the CDC and the WHO, but the GOD. What does he say? The original knowledge giver for the most enabling, empowering road to health and vitality. And then original medicine gives us a standard for evaluating all the other health systems. There are so many, there are literally hundreds of health systems out there and modalities. And so with these 8 laws, it gives us the foundational standard. All of them have parts of it, but none are as powerful as this system. And we're going to help you to understand that as we continue to go through. So let's first look at, though, one of the major shortcomings of the allopathic signs and symptoms approach. The health system is a lack of knowledge of the lack of knowledge of the true role that germs play in the disease process, namely the germ theory. I'm assuming that you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
No, we can't.
Oh, okay. Let me see if we can figure
You are
out.
not sharing screen. I sent a note to you.
Let me see let me see now. According to this, hold on one second. Let me see if I can get back to, because I can see it, but you can't. And it just.
Are you looking at the share screen, Doctor?
I'm trying to get back to the. Let me see what we have here. Let me see. Okay. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Let me just
He's about to do it.
let me just fire this up. So what I covered was we said we talked about this. We're going to talk about the allopathic versus the original medicine model. And basically what I covered, you can see this now?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to look at the role of germs, I said, and then I talked about the signs and symptoms versus the violation of the laws of health. That's what I talked about earlier. And then I talked about the original medicine model, the original author and creator, developing the whole person. I think you got that. Getting the knowledge from the original knowledge giver, and then gives us a standard for evaluating all systems. And this is when I kind of realized that you might not be seeing the screen. And so what the point I was making is that one of the major shortcomings of the allopathic signs and symptoms approach is that the health system is a lack of knowledge of the true role that germs play. So this is fairly important. Let's focus on this, and then let's go to another commercial. But let's spend a couple of minutes just talking about the germ theory. This is an hour-plus presentation, but I want to spend about 2 or 3 minutes, if you allow me to, just to make a couple of very important points. And what I want to do is compare the allopathic versus the original medicine model on what the 2 viewpoints are on this germ theory. You probably never heard of the Microzyma theory. Even when I went to naturopathy school, they really didn't talk about it. But this has been around for a long time. Let's first talk about the germ theory. And Louis Pasteur is considered the modern father of the germ theory. of microbiology. But it really started back in the 1650s with a guy by the name of Antoine van Leeuwenhoek, who was he was a draper. He did a lot of things. But one of the things he manufactured and put together clothing, and he developed a crude microscope to look at the different threads of linens for the different thicknesses, et cetera, for quality of linen. He was a very bright guy. Among the other things he did was he looked at disease material, and through his microscope, and he saw all of these little guys running around. They were he called them back in those days, animalcules, or little animals, or beasties. And so basically, he's the first one that really started this germ theory, and he is really the father of microbiology. And so that goes back to the mid 1600s. And these are the tenets of the germ theory. That goes all the way back to then. Germs cause disease. They produce toxins in healthy tissues. Germs should be destroyed because they'll cause further disease. Germs are destructible. I want to pause here for a few seconds because you see this LD50. There's this LD50 phenomenon. What that is, every drug that gets approved has to go through a number of things. There's a long process. It takes years, even vaccinations, et cetera. That's why you see it's taking them so long to come out with something that's acceptable. LD50 is, what is the lethal dose of that drug? And all drugs have to go through this. That kills 50% of the test population. So whether that test population are monkeys or mice or guinea pigs, whatever that test population is, what kills 50% of the population? And you can see that takes a long time to go through that. Now, the way this works is some of the population is so weak that once you expose them, you just mention the drug or the vaccine or whatever the pharmaceutical is, they just drop dead and die, some 2%. And then, they keep doubling the dose until they get up to 50%. So that's what that LD50 is. But something interesting occurs. If they keep doubling, they go up to 70, 80, 90%. By the time they get around 93 to 97%, something interesting occurs. They no longer die. As a matter of fact, they adapt and they thrive and they learn to live off of it. So one of the things you need to appreciate about bacteria and viruses and germs, they're adaptable. They've been around since the beginning of time, and they'll be around till the end of time because they're very adaptable. And you even hear them talking about now with COVID-19. Oh, it's mutating. There's nothing new. And that's why it's so difficult to come up with a cure. They mutate, they change. And so as a result of this thinking, though, they use antibiotics, vaccinations, chemo, radiation, drugs, what they call evidence-based medicine. Now, a contemporary of Louis Pasteur was a guy by the name of Pierre-Jacques Antoine Béchamp, a mouthful. And he lived from 1816 to 1908. And basically, one of his things is he was a bitter rival of Pasteur. None of you have ever heard of Béchamp because Béchamp didn't fit into the paradigm that they were trying to promote in the health field. But let me tell you what his theory was. He also studied germs, bacteria, et cetera. And his conclusion was germs result from disease. They're found in decomposing tissues and liquids. Germs serve a useful purpose. They break down waste for elimination. Germs adapt to their environment. They're good or bad based on the environment. If it's a good environment, it makes B12 and it does some synergistic things. If it's bad, what happens is the accumulation of them is what the issue is, because then there's so many of them and their excrement, their toxins overload the system. And that's where you get all these cytokine storms, et cetera. So with any kind of issue, with germs, there's three issues you need to think about. You need to think about dosage, you need to think about duration, but you also need to think about susceptibility. What we're focused on in the germ theory side is the dosage and the duration. So you don't want to be in crowds. You need masking, you need gloves, you need sanitizers, because you're trying to minimize the dosage. What the Microzyma theory is, we're focusing more on the susceptibility. And I'll come back to that as we go through this. So, but they use probiotics, herbs, diet, lifestyle, environment. It's drugless, non-FDA approved. And let me put that in context for you. These so-called evidence-based studies, many studies demonstrate subjective bias. Most of you, and even myself, don't read these studies. We just assume that they're valid. And you go and check them, you find that some of them are almost laughable. But let's go on. Studies generally are done on animals, not humans. Sometimes it's unethical to do some of these. You don't want to do the LD50 on humans. Studies show that many drugs perform marginally better than placebo. Way back when, I used to read some of these studies, and I remember reading one. It said that the placebo was 47% effective, where the drug itself was in the 30s. But because it passed the FDA, they were able to put it on the market. So sometimes it's your mindset that's even more powerful than what you're taking. Keep that in mind as we keep going through these laws of health. There are no control studies that show the effectiveness of vaccinations, bypass surgery, a lot of the blood pressure management, heart transplants. I mean, think about it. So people assume that there's all these studies that exist. There are no incentives for natural health studies, and too often there's more economics and politics than science involved in so-called evidence-based studies. Now, there's a couple of books that we have that are required courses in both our doctoral and our PhD programs. Proof Positive is one of them. It's written by a medical doctor, and this is loaded with all kinds of references for the superiority of the things that you're going to be learning about today, and this natural divine prescription of these natural 8 laws that we're going through today. So pay attention to them. And there are many documented studies. You don't see them. You won't see them on CNN and MSNBC or Fox or any of the stations out there. It doesn't fit into the paradigm, but there's many. And in this book, Human Life, you see on the other side, that's another required course in the doctoral program. Human Life is Philosophy and Laws. And I just want to read one little quick thing, one little quick paragraph out of that. There's a chapter on germs. Dr. Thomas Powell, who died a few years ago in California in his 80th year. Now, this book was written in 1928. So it was written around right after the pandemic of 1918. In his 80th year, is thought to have taken more germs than any other man. Years ago, he challenged his medical colleagues to produce a single disease in him by germ inoculation. For years, many of the germ theorists did their best to silence this discordant note. Cholera germs, bubonic plague germs, and germs of every description were inoculated into his body and fed to him in every kind of food. Again and again, they scraped his throat raw and painted it with diphtheria germs. But in all these many efforts, not once did they succeed in producing one single disease in him. So there is a body of knowledge out there. It's not secret, it's not hidden. These are textbooks in our school. So I just want to share with you, in summary, the original medicine perspective on germs and disease as we get ready to go to our next commercial. And the points are, germs are the lowest form of life, incapable of attacking or killing anything. Germs are scavengers and decomposers totally dependent on waste to survive. Decomposition of body waste irritate the system and signals the need to eliminate. Disease symptoms are not the disease, but rather the symptoms of the disease. And the consumption and injection of toxic substances further suppress the immune system that you just heard that sunlight and air helps to fortify. And nourishment and toxic elimination prevents and reverses those symptoms. So you want to clean out and build up. And that's what these laws help you to do. So air, sunlight, and germs. From the germ theory standpoint, they're airborne, they ride on dust particles, masks limit its impact. And this N95 is supposed to be one of the best. It takes out 95%. And then they're focusing more on dosage and duration as opposed to susceptibility. And then, of course, crowded indoor spaces increases that dosage and duration. So it is kind of rational if you look at it from their viewpoint. But from a practical original medicine standpoint, we just learned that sun-infused air has ozone, which is a disinfectant. All organs need air food. You grow the indoor plants, you heard that, ionizes infused air with O3, which destroys outside germs. Deep breathing exercises improve the breathing integrity. So this basically is shown. These are very important. Sun is a disinfectant. And if you can't get out to the sun, get yourself a far infrared lamp from the store for that UV support. It's very, very powerful. And I remember the question I asked, what percentage of your health and vitality come from air? 56%. Stay tuned. There's more. Well, now what we're going to talk about, divine prescription for nutrition and water. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about what percentage of your health and vitality comes from food and water. So with that, let's turn over to nutrition and water.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Grace Brown, and I am going to be sharing on this segment of the Love Your Life seminar on nutrition and immunity. Our objectives during this segment is going to be to understand how the immune system works, as well as, let me move my screen forward, as well as learning how to support your health with nutrition. Some of the functions of the immune system is to fight disease-causing pathogens. And again, pathogens is simply another word for germs, bacteria, viruses, etc. It also removes the pathogens from the body, and it recognizes and neutralizes harmful substances from the environment. Additionally, it fights disease-causing changes in the body, such as bacteria. Some of the components of the immune system, there are many, that we're going to, that we will review is the skin that keeps out the majority of pathogens. You also have mucus that traps pathogens so that they can be expelled from the body. You also have stomach acid, which destroys the pathogens, the germs. And then finally, just the immune system attacks foreign cells that invade the body. Some of the nutrients that we are going to discuss in this segment are protein, vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin E, and zinc. The role of protein is to assist the immune system in overall healing and recovery. Some of the plant-based sources where you could get protein are beans, peas, soy, nuts, and seeds. Additionally, the role of vitamin A in the immune system is to maintain the integrity of the skin and the tissue. Some plant-based sources where you can get vitamin A is sweet potatoes, carrots, broccoli, spinach, and red bell peppers. Additionally, we have vitamin C. Everyone loves their vitamin C. Vitamin C supports the immune system by working inside the body to increase white blood cell production, which destroys pathogens in the body. Plant-based sources of vitamin C are citrus, red bell peppers, papaya, strawberries, and tomato juice. We also have vitamin E, and vitamin E supports the immune system by producing antioxidants that aid the white blood cells in destruction of pathogens in the body. And some plant-based sources for vitamin E are sunflower seeds, almonds, hazelnuts, as well as sunflower oil. Zinc aids in DNA and cellular production, which supports the overall function of the immune system as well as wound healing. Plant-based sources for zinc are whole grains, beans, seeds, and again, nuts. While this segment was short, these are just pieces of a much larger puzzle as far as supporting your overall health and boosting your immune system. Please be sure to talk with your doctor or registered dietitian on additional ways that you can support your overall health and boost your immune system. This page shows just a few of the sources that you could use for further reading to gain additional information on supporting your health and boosting your immune system. This presentation is a summary of a much larger presentation by Nicole Walker. And so if you would like additional information from her regarding this presentation and nutrition information, please contact or email her at nwalker@andrews.edu for more information. Thank you so much. And next we will hear from Brother Sam Dorsal regarding the wonderful benefits of water.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the Love Your Life Health Seminar Symposium. My name is Samuel Dorsal, as was mentioned, and I want to share with you why it's so great and wonderful for you to drink water. Okay, what is water? Water is one of the most abundant sources in nature, one of the most abundant elements. Right now, as I'm speaking, it's raining here in Maryland. And oceans, rivers, lakes cover 3/4 of the Earth's surface in water. Water is made up of two gases, hydrogen and oxygen, which is why it's called H2O. And as you can see in this picture here, most of the human body is composed of water, in particular the cell, which is of utmost importance in all the functions of our body. There are many benefits of drinking water, but I just want to give you a few. The first one is that you can lose weight. I know a lot of us want to lose weight, especially during this time of quarantine. Many people have been gaining weight, being inside and eating, overeating. But if you drink water, it helps you lose weight. You can flush down a lot of those toxins, a lot of those byproducts of fat. And of course, we know it has 0 calories. Water helps you to avoid sickness. You're much less likely to get sick if you're drinking water, especially during this time in flu season. Drinking water helps your system to work regularly to fight against ailments like kidney stones, heart attack, and it'll actually moisten your mucous membrane, which helps you a lot in digestion of food. And finally, of course, water helps you to feel good. We want you to be happy and to feel good. We want you to love your life, okay? So just wanted to give you a few practical ways you can increase your intake of water. First of all is to carry around a water bottle, all right? Or even a gallon of water. At Giant or Walmart, you could find this between 80 and 89 cents. And it's very easy. A lot of times too, we have smartphones. We also have smart devices. This can be used as well to set timers on your person to remind you to drink water. You want to not drink all your water at once because you'll be rushing to the bathroom, but try to sip it throughout the day. Here a little, there a little. And thereby you will not be thirsty or even feel hungry. Water, sleep with a water bottle next to you. I try to do this a lot. And when you wake up, the first thing you want to do is drink water. If you have a little lemon you could squeeze in it, that's even great too. But just drinking water before breakfast, that wakes your body up and gets it ready for breakfast. And instead of snacking, one thing that is very good is to drink water. A lot of times you think you're hungry, but your body is actually thirsty. And you can't tell the difference if you drink enough water between meals, between hunger and thirst. So it's a good way to trick your mind so that you don't overeat. I want to talk about a very simple way that you can use water. There are many things you can do with water, but this remedy here on the screen is called the hot foot bath. And what it does, it is effective if you have congestion anywhere in your body, specifically in the pelvic region, if headaches, stuffy nose. It's even good if you had a stressful day just to relax you. And it's very simple. You need a bucket. You need some hot water. Not boiling, you don't want to burn yourself, but hot, and a sheet and 2 towels. Towel for your head, where you're going to make the towel cold, and a towel under your feet just for cleanup. It's good to do this with 2 persons, ideally, and you would follow the directions of putting that warm water in that basin under your feet, place your feet in. You cover yourself, you let that steam come up, and you also have the cold wrap around your head, to push the blood down. We know that cold actually, pushes blood away, and heat brings blood, towards. So actually, if you have a headache, you're bringing the blood away from your head to your feet, thereby lowering the congestion. This handout's going to be available on the website afterwards, so please make sure to share your email. I'm sure if you registered, your email is with us already. So I want to thank you guys so much for being with us today, and don't forget to love your life today. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Sharps. Thank you, guys.
Okay, can you see the screen this time?
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
We
Not
see
yet?
you.
How about now? Okay, are we back on?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so you learned a lot about nutrition and water. And remember we said I asked the question, what % of your health and vitality comes from food and water? How much of your what percentage of your health and vitality comes from air? Anybody remember? Anybody paying attention out there? Anybody?
50%.
56%. Okay, it's good to hear. All right, put it in the chat. And what I want to, if you have any questions, I tend to talk fast a lot of times. And I might just gloss over a few points. Take a note or put it in the chat. Make sure that we come back and answer all your questions. And so we're going to look at what percentage of health and vitality comes from food and water. Okay, and then by the time we end this, I'm going to show you the mathematical rationale for determining all of this. So you just heard some really good practical applications. Let me just summarize some of them. First of all, one of the things that you want to do from a nutritional standpoint, you want to eat a plant-based diet. What's the rationale for that? We're made from dust. What does the Bible tell us? We were formed from the dust of the earth, and then God breathed into us the breath of life. What's dust? It's all those minerals. It's all those things in the earth. And the best way to sustain all of that dust, those minerals, are a high minerally bioavailable dust. It's called plants. It's the manufacturing facility that God has designed for sustaining and replacing the dust that we initially came from. So the best sustenance for outrageous health and vitality comes from the dust of the earth, plants, the manufacturing facility for all of those minerals. There's some 85 minerals that we need. And you saw the presentation. Some of those were talked about, zinc and some of the vitamins. All of those things come in the highest bioavailable form from plants. And you want to eat all nutrient-dense foods from the plant kingdom. Meat consumption should be based on individual capacity. I'm going to come back to that. Meat isn't the best nutrition, but some people can handle it better than others. And so when we look at the assessment tool, I'm going to show you a way how you can determine whether it works for you. And there's some people who want to tell you that eating meat is a sin. I can't find that. Now, eating certain unclean meats can be a problem, but meat consumption, if it's not based on your capacity, it's not a sin, but you might be able to get to heaven a lot faster by eating it if you can't absorb and utilize it. Another thing, you want to avoid the no-no foods, avoid milk and dairy, all these mucus-producing foods, which provides an environment for the proliferation of viruses and parasites. You want to avoid gluten and GMOs, genetically modified foods, hybridized foods. AMAP is as much as possible, as much as practical. Now, if you go to somebody's house and they serve you food, don't come out with the crossbones and skulls and start and run out of the house, dusting shaking the dust off your sandals, etc. Quietly sit there, eat the food. You don't have to gorge it, but very respectfully eat what you can, and then make the appropriate adjustments on your own. So this is not about legalism. It's about relationships. And so let's understand these things and put it in the right kind of context. But there's a lot of choices that we can make on our own. Avoiding refined carbs, sea salt could be a problem. I'm going to come back to that one later. Chocolate, unclean meats I talked about. And then for those under 12, you want to minimize meat as much as possible. So for some of you parents out there, if you're concerned about your kids going to school and you want them to enhance their ability to be not susceptible, you remember we said there are 3 issues with viruses and bacteria. It's dosage, duration, and susceptibility. The more energy you have to use to digest meat, the less energy you have for the immune system that was just talked about in the previous presentation. Eating takes up more energy than digestion takes up more energy than any of the other 12 systems. It's the circulatory system, the nervous system, the integumentary system, all of the systems, it takes up the most energy. So if you understand that under 12, you just don't have the well-developed enzymes and the systemic integrity to handle it. And even for nuts and seeds, you need to be careful for those under age 8. And so what does that mean? Some people that have weak digestions, even if you're 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, you need to be careful with these. I'm going to come back to this concept again, because all of these concepts that we're learning for the practical application, remember I talked about earlier, is the integrated and comprehensive putting together of these very powerful laws that gives you that outrageous health and vitality. Nature's flu shot comes from food. And this is the foundational elements of those first 4: honey, garlic, onions, and lemons. And there's a lot of different ways of putting it together. But this is a very, very powerful flu shot. You can use horseradish, or you can use turmeric, based on what your issues are. Horseradish and lemon is very, very powerful for opening up the lungs. And of course, peppermint oil helps with respiratory issues and digestive issues. Cayenne is a powerful circulatory measure. And you blend those together, and you can take it a half to a teaspoon. You can take 2 teaspoons. You can take 3 teaspoons. You can take 4. It depends on, again, your capacity, your requirements, and how acute it is. You won't die from it unless you try to take a bucket load of it. But even if you had an ounce or 2, which is very, very high, I usually don't use more than a tablespoon or 2, no matter what issue I'm experiencing. And that's usually pretty powerful. And just to give you a quick story, I've been running into a lot of people that have been calling us for COVID that contracted it. One was a 22-year-old girl, and after the 3rd dosage, she was already feeling better, and it resolved the issue. I had an older woman, it was a doctor's mother, as a matter of fact, who basically told her, well, you probably don't want to come here. We're so busy in the hospital, blah, 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 blah. Try this. And 3 days later, she said she's never felt better in all her life. And she started exercising, doing things that she couldn't do for the previous 20 years. I told her to stop the exercise because all that energy that was being released, you need for further enhancing the immune system, et cetera. So you want to do this in an integrated fashion, in a comprehensive fashion. Vegetable broth is a very highly bioavailable liquid mineral cocktail. Remember I told you about those 85 minerals? You get a broad spectrum of vegetables in there, and you get that mineral cocktail, and promotes fever therapy. Coronavirus is destroyed by heat. And the mineral density supports the immune system that you just learned about, and overall systemic function. And you want to add raw onions, etc. And this is my favorite, onion soup. This is one of the best preventives there is. You heard talk in the earlier presentation about vitamin C. One of the highest bioavailable sources of vitamin C happens to be onions. The highest I know is an herb called camu, but that's not very readily available, where onions are ubiquitous. They're all over the place. And so you just put your onions, your water, your celery, peppers, and you can spice it up a little bit. You don't want to overcook it. You notice there's no cheese in here. I'm not talking about French onion soup. I'm talking about onion soup. And this is the other part of the recipe that we gave to that doctor's mom. It was actually 3 things. I'll tell you what the 3rd thing is later, but it was basically the flu shot that I talked about earlier, the nature's flu shot, and basically encouraging her to eat more broth. And even this, if she was having a problem with the digestion, is, you know, you can puree it, and it's very, very powerful. Now let me tell you about vitamin C. You can give a whole story in all these, but vitamin C is the cement for the cells. All the cells need it. It just so happens that while animals produce their own vitamin C, you don't produce much in humans. And so you need to get it from an outside source. And vitamin C, the analogy I would make for you is if you had a brick house and you just pile the bricks on each other, there's holes in there and things can get through. And the cement binds those bricks together. That's what vitamin C does for the cell. And so what does it do? It enhances your ability to resist anything because they can't enter. Now, what a lot of people don't realize, we talked earlier about the germ theory, we have some 10 trillion to 100 trillion cells, depending on who you talk to. How many germs do you think are in the body? How many bacteria and viruses do you think are in the human body? I don't hear anybody. I'll tell you then, 300 trillion. Cells are microscopic, you can't see them, but they're measured in micrometers, which is millions of a meter. Viruses are the smallest of all entities, smaller than even bacteria. And they're measured in nanometers, billions of a meter. So they can enter into that cell. And what you want to do is you want to put that cement around it so they can't enter. So you improve your ability to resist the immune system that was just talked about. So this is a very practical application of using food as your medicine. There are many others, but I just want to give you an idea of how powerful this is. We talked about water. Now, water is important, but you notice I highlighted systematic. You want to systematically drink your water. And as it was said, it washes out the bacteria. It's the best catalyst. It's the best transporter of nutrients to the cells and the best transporter for removing the toxins from the cells. It helps to enhance the function integrity of the digestion, the liver, etc. And heat, the virus is all heat sensitive. Temperature is your friend. I don't know anybody who dies of a high temperature. You can go up to 108. I don't recommend it. I don't recommend you going above 104, 106. But you can go up to 112. And so hydrotherapy was already spoken of, so I don't have to spend a whole lot of time on that because the previous speaker did such a brilliant job. But this is very, very powerful way of using water to increase the peripheral circulation, increase the metabolism, relieve pain, etc., increase the blood flow. And my favorite is the contrast shower. As a matter of fact, I did that this morning. I told you I have a bunch of Zooms. I started at 5 a.m. this morning. And I took a contrast shower. I was fired up and ready to go with that after that hot and cold. It's a blood massage. It improved the circulation from the tips of your fingers to the tips of your toes, all the way up to the tips of the hair follicles on your head. And it's the 1 to 2 minutes in the hot. It's the 15 to 30 seconds in the cold. You want to finish off with the cold. Usually you need at least 3 iterations for the therapeutic effect. I do up to 7 sometimes. And this morning I ended up with 5 minutes in the cold. Believe me, I was fired up and ready to go. So this water, internal and external use, is very, very powerful. So as I promised at the beginning of this segment, let's talk about now what % of your health and vitality is from food and water. Anybody want to hazard a guess? Don't put anything in the chat. Just write it down on your piece of paper. I don't want you to show people how brilliant you are, or maybe not so brilliant you might be. But most of you might know this. But what % of your health and vitality is from food and water? And we're going to talk, and we're going to see a nice little commercial where we're going to talk about how to prepare a nice, sumptuous food. But what percentage is from food and water? Remember, anybody remember what air was? Do I have anybody with sound over there that remembers what percentage air contributes to your health and vitality? That you can throw into the chat if you were paying attention, or you can shout it out. Anybody out there? Am I a voice crying in the wilderness? Anybody know what percentage air contributes to your health and vitality?
56.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, you ready for water and food? Okay, percentage of health and vitality from food and water. Do I hear a drum roll? Okay, water equals 15%. Food equals 5%. 5% of your health and vitality. Now stay tuned. Don't throw any rocks at me yet. I'm going to show you the whole rationale for this. But one of the things I want you to understand is we're so focused on food. Understand what it contributes to health and vitality. And you heard me say in the beginning, these laws of health, you want to apply them in an integrated, comprehensive fashion. As you understand them and as you apply them appropriately, it is the most powerful system known to man. And so that's why we're putting together this series, so you can have a very good holistic understanding of these very, very powerful time-honored principles, these laws of health. So with that, let's move on to the cooking demo. And when we come back, you don't want to miss this. We're going to look at the original medicine perspective on the 10 underlying causes of all diseases. And then we're going to focus in on and how you can understand this and apply it for practical applications for personal empowerment. But right now, I know you're getting all lathered up. Your juices are going. Let's switch over to a cooking.
Hello, my name is Glenn Hill. I'm here doing the demo for the Love Your Life seminar. Today I'll be preparing for you.
Brother Glenn, we cannot hear you.
Yes. We can't even see you.
Can you hear me now? Can you see me?
Yes.
Can you hear?
Yes.
They can hear and see me now?
Yes.
Okay, my name is Glenn Hill. I'll be doing the food demo for the Love Your Life seminar. Today I'll be preparing a vegan stir fry for you with a bunch of fun ingredients. While doing so, I'll be giving you some fun facts on them. Here is exactly what is in the stir fry today. Snap peas, carrots, onions, green onions. Let's see, we have a little bit of ginger, garlic, fresh garlic. All of these ingredients are fresh. Red bell pepper, orange bell pepper, onion, broccoli, and cauliflower. Today I'll be using a citrus spare rib for the vegan meat. It's really good. It's really close to chicken. Funny story about that. My cousin was actually eating it and didn't know he was eating vegan meat. That's how good it was. It's one of my inspirations. Yeah. So olive oil would be the best oil to use if you're going to use oil because of the healthy fats in it. But today I'll be using coconut oil because it's an Asian dish. And I found that coconut oil goes a little bit better with Asian dishes. So first, I'm gonna add my snap peas. I use about a cup of snap peas, 3 cloves of garlic, half a carrot, and about a tablespoon of ginger, fresh ginger, ground up. Yes. This is the onion, red bell pepper, and orange bell pepper. Now you want to cook this down probably about 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes. You don't want to cook it too long. The longer you cook your vegetables, the more nutrients you cook out of them. So our carrots are a good source of beta-carotene, fiber, vitamin K1, potassium, and antioxidants. It's weight loss friendly and helps lower cholesterol and improve eye health. The sugar snap peas have high fiber content. They're a really good source of soluble fiber, which helps regulate blood sugars levels and can maintain healthy weight. The green onions, aka scallions, scallions are actually Latin for garlic. They also keep the cholesterol levels down. It lowers the chances for heart disease and diabetes. It also may block cancer growth, and especially in the stomach. We also have some onions. They contain cancer-fighting compounds, loaded with antioxidants, heart healthy. They help control blood sugar. It also boosts bone density and digestive health. Starting to smell real good in here. And this recipe is actually done all in one pot. Still got another minute and a half while I remove that. Orange bell peppers are packed with vitamins A and C and potassium. They're low in calories. It's a healthy dose of fiber, folate, and iron. The red bell pepper. This is actually one of the immune system boosting superfoods. The red bell pepper has 3 times the vitamin C as a Florida orange. It also has beta carotene, which the body converts into vitamin A. It's also good for your skin. Garlic, one of the strongest immune system boosters. Its properties come from heavy concentration of sulfur containing compounds such as allicin. Now we're getting down to the nitty gritty here. My Aunt Terry actually gave me this recipe. They both together kind of inspired me to do the recipe. She was actually cooking for an event, and my cousin, we all sat down, we started eating, and because of the texture, I knew it was vegan meat. I actually like the grill, so I could tell that it wasn't actually chicken. My cousin didn't. I seen him going to work on it, and he was eating real good, so you don't even know what you eat. He said chicken. I said, that's not chicken. So he didn't know what it was, and it's a really healthy meal, so I decided to share this with you guys today. Now, I'm gonna put another tablespoon of oil in the pan. Now, I use about 2.5 cups of broccoli and 1.5 cups of cauliflower. And I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't use any seasoning. The seasoning is done with the actual sauce. This Kikkoman's, I use the less sodium one. Remember, we're supposed to be doing heart healthy. You also always want to check the back ingredients, especially on these. You want to make sure that's exactly what's in it, just salt. I use about, I don't know, 1/2 cup of this to cover it real well. And I cook that for about 3 minutes as well. Yes. Now, cauliflower. Cauliflower is also has cancer-fighting properties. It's also a cruciferous vegetable. Broccoli is actually supercharged with vitamins and minerals, A, C, and E. It's packed with fiber and antioxidants. By far one of the healthiest vegetables you can put on your plate. It is also cruciferous. Now, cruciferous actually means it's a vegetable. When they bloom, they grow in the shape of a cross. They're also referred to as ones that bear the cross or cross-bearing. Cruciferous vegetables are epigenic tumor suppressor, have epigenic tumor suppressor genes. The soliferine in broccoli reduced by half the amount of cancerous activity in the genes of cancer itself. So just by eating broccoli, the University of Chicago, Harvard, lung cancer dropped 28%, breast cancer 17%, esophagus cancer 31%, ovarian cancer 33%, prostate cancer 59%, and melanoma 28%. That's a lot of love just from broccoli. About another minute and a half for that. And this is all going to go over a wonderful brown rice. Now, I actually use the brown rice instead of white rice because of the fiber content. It also lowers cholesterol, promotes fullness. So you're not eating just because you don't feel full. The brown rice helps you actually get there. And it helps prevent blood clots, actually. So in essence, this whole meal from top to bottom is good for you and healthy. Stop there. I'm gonna go ahead and add the citrus spare rib. Now, the vegan meat is already prepared. It's already ready. You basically want to just heat it up. That's basically all we're gonna do. Warm it in the pan. Yes. Now, I've actually changed my diet as of a couple of months ago. Once I started doing all the studies for this information, I've changed my diet. I actually don't eat meat for breakfast anymore. I slow, just like the doctor was saying, Dr. Sharp, it's individually based. So I had to be honest with myself and figure out what am I putting into my body that is not healthy. And sugar was one of them. I tend to drink my sugar, so sugary drinks, cut back on those. I love bread, cut back on the bread. And a whole lot more fruits, vegetables, grains, nuts. Go ahead and add everything back to this. And in that process, like I said, I haven't even started working out yet, and I've already dropped more than 20 pounds just from that simple diet change. And I eat a whole lot less red meat. Took my red meat content down all the way down. I'm actually down to once a week now. Hopefully, the next goal is to transfer another meal for vegan, for vegetables instead of meat, and just hopefully keep growing in that process. Now this sweet red Thai chili pepper is nothing but a little bit of sugar, some rice vinegar, red chili peppers. I usually use about half a cup. It's really done by eye. And once you get it, you get a real nice, colorful, healthy meal that even a meat eater would eat and not cry about it, and not give you a hard time. And the milk comes out, it actually looks like this. And here is the stir fry. That's about a cup of brown rice, a little bit of strawberries. And that is the presentation for you today. Thank you. And back to Dr. Shaw.
Thank you.
Amen. I like the way it looked on that plate. I like it better if it was on my table. I think I want a Grubhub, a double order of that. But anyhow, let's go from now. Now we're going to talk about the original medicine perspective on the 10 underlying causes of all diseases. I'm going to go through this a little bit faster than I planned so I can kind of get us back on time. But I want to make a couple of key points. And at the end, I'm going to show you how you're going to get all your questions answered anyway. So let's look at the original medicine perspective on the 10 underlying causes for all diseases. And here's what they are. All doctors go through it. Medical school, there's a book called the Gowan's Diagnostics. And it basically talks about these 10 things and what the procedure is for dealing with that. So the ones I'm going to focus on for the purpose of this presentation very quickly is infection, inflammation, and toxicity, because those are the three that are involved with COVID. You know, they talk about the infection itself, the inflammation that occurs, which is one of the pre-existing conditions, and a lot of it has to do with the toxicity. We talked about a lot of these things with regard to the germ theory. And then I want to just make a summary point on those last three fancy sounding terms. All the other ones I think you recognize. So let's look at infections, the allopathic approach we talked about earlier, the social distancing, the masking, the PCR testing, the antigen testing, hydroxychloroquine, remdesivir, dexamethasone, ventilators, vaccination when available. All of these are designed to treat the symptoms. Remember we said there's a signs and symptoms approach. There's nothing in here that enhances the function and integrity of the immune system. As a matter of fact, even when they work, they're weakening the immune system. So it's at an expense. And so we said there are three issues, right? There's dosage, duration, and susceptibility. We want to be less susceptible. So from an original medicine perspective, social distancing does not make sense. You want social support and physical distancing. The masking, well, that's a personal choice. We talked about the size of these viruses. They're nanometers. Even at the N95, 95%, you're still taking in a whole lot. And even the health professionals are being stressed, and they have more PPE, more masking than anybody else. So you don't want to focus on just the masking. And what about your hair? What about your ears, your eyes, your skin? Those pores are big enough for those nanometer viruses to get into anyway. And the next time I go to the restaurant and they stop me and force me to put on my mask and my gloves to take me to my seat, then I can take off the mask and gloves. I don't understand how sitting down makes me less vulnerable, but I'm going to sue them for not putting hand sanitizer on my table and instead of the salt and pepper, because the food is loaded with the germs when you come in. It's airborne. And so I need to shake a good portion of that hand sanitizer and mix it in with my food if I'm really worried about all those germs. So again, PCR antigen testing, the original medicine perspective is RBTI. I'm going to come back to that later. I don't have a whole lot of time, so I just want to focus on there is a way of testing that really tests, as Glenn was talking about, so you'll know what your individual capacities and requirements are. And then you can, what the testing that you need to do is to see how well you are in harmony with these 8 laws that we're talking about today. The 4 you saw and the 4 that's remaining. And then the natural first aid kit, I'm going to talk about that at the end. I already talked about onion soup instead of remdesivir, the natural anti-inflammatories, respiratory support, original medicine flu shot. We talked about that, and the powerful original medicine supplement. You saw this. The point I want to make here is that these are so versatile. They have multiple effects. You know, you're getting the energy, you're getting the thinning of the blood, the vitamin C, the support of the liver, the system. It's just powerful natural ways as opposed to the antivirals, et cetera. And there are a whole bunch of other herbs. We'll come back to this when we talk about the natural first aid kit. Same thing with the anti-inflammatories. But basically, remember I said earlier, what you want to do is you want to focus more on cleansing and rebuilding, as opposed to what I call the hand grenade approach, throwing a hand grenade in at all of those viruses with all of these antibiotics and everything. What you want to do is clean out the environment so that you're not becoming a hospitable host for all of these germs, so-called. And so you got the 5 organs of elimination. And you see over here, based on where that accumulation of waste is, that comes from air, from water, from food, from medications, from grooming products, household products. Some we do voluntarily, some is not our fault. It's environmental, but still, there's a lot that we can do to kind of just clean out and rebuild. And then for parasite elimination, again, there's a whole host of herbs. Again, in the spirit of time, I'm not going to go through them in detail, but you recognize some of these like wormwood and caprylic acid. Most of you know about aloe, garlic. And you notice these are on multiple lists. It's also in the anti-infection. Grapeseed extract, diatomaceous earth basically kills parasites. So there's a lot of different things that are available in the original medicine arsenal that not only are very powerful, but no side effects. Well, there's one side effect. Good health, outrageous health, which works on that reducing the susceptibility part of the equation and not worrying so much about dosage and duration. And then let me just end, I've made a couple of changes real quick when I saw the time was running out. I just want to focus on real quickly these last 3 fancy sounding terms in those 10 categories of disease. Iatrogenic relating to illness caused by medical examination or treatment. Okay, so that's from properly prescribed drugs or mistakes. But 2 million people have severe reactions from properly prescribed drugs. I'm not talking about ones that were wrong or misread because of the handwriting of the doctor. And over 100,000 deaths per year occur from properly FDA-approved dosages of medications. Last year was 128,000. Anybody want to hazard the guess of how many die from herbs? The answer is 5 to 10. I didn't say 5 to 10,000. Some years it's like 0. I'm said 5 to 10 versus 128,000. And it's from herbs that you got to be careful with herbs. You have to know a little bit. So poke root and some others can be very, very toxic. And if it's not used properly, you can have a problem. But you can see the difference. Nosocomial is a disease originating in a hospital. So, the MRSA, the methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA, you pick that up in the hospital. And what I say is, if you really believe in the germ theory, why would you go to the hospital for anything? There's more germs there than any place else. Just a thought. And idiosyncratic stands for unknown cause. And as we know, the Bible tells us the cross curseless does not occur. There's no such thing as a cause, an unknown cause. And the point is, if you're in the original medicine model, you avoid all 3 of these areas: iatrogenic, nosocomial, and idiosyncratic. So you don't have to worry about that. Now, in the interest of time, let me go quickly to the last, as we're coming to the end, the last 4 elements in these laws of health: exercise and temperance. And when we come back, we're going to talk about avoiding things that are harmful and doing things that are good in moderation. And we're going to talk about what are some good things that we're doing that we might be doing wrongly. What good things are we doing wrongly? But let's first talk about the divine prescription for health and exercise.
Okay, give me 1 minute here. Maybe this is a good time for us to exercise. Maybe we should just stand up a little bit and just stretch. Exercise. How important is exercise? We will see from the this presentation how important it is. Why do we need to exercise? My name is Ian Smith, and I will be quickly going through exercise. All right. So exercise, what is exercise? Exercise is bodily activity for the sake of improving physical fitness. Synonyms for exercise include movement, effort, work, training, and exertion. The purpose of exercise. It is designed for us to keep our bodies in optimum physical health. It is also designed to keep the mind fresh and working properly. Believe it or not, physical exercise also helps our spiritual lives also. The benefits of exercise. Exercise helps you to control your weight. It reduces your risk of heart disease. It helps our bodies manage blood sugar and insulin levels. It improves your mental health and mood. It helps to keep your mind thinking, learning, and keeps your judgment skills sharp as you age. So we should be sharp no matter what age we are. Exercise also helps us to understand better spiritual things. How necessary is exercise? If we don't exercise, the following will happen to us. We will die prematurely. We will become sluggish. We will lose our muscle mass, and our immune system will be weakened. We become lazy, lethargic, and irritable. What about exercise in the Bible? In Genesis chapter 2, verse 8, it says that God planted a garden eastward in Eden. What do people do in a garden? They plant stuff, plant fruits, vegetables, and they take care of a garden, and that requires movement. That requires exercise. Genesis 3, verse 19, it says that in the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread. So if a person doesn't work or exercise, they shouldn't eat. All right, not exercising just your jaw, but your whole body. All right, the Bible is clear that if we don't exercise, we are really destroying our bodies, and we're commanded not to kill. Lack of exercise is a contributor to us killing ourselves. So I hope you learned something from, or a lot of things from this presentation, and I will quickly go to the next one, which is temperance. Give me a minute while I try to find it. Oh, here we go. Right in front of me. Okay, let me get out to this. Coming. Can everybody see the screen? Not yet? Okay.
Nope.
All right, thank you, Mr. Munson. Share screen. right, almost there.
Okay.
See it now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so temperance. Why do we need to practice temperance? How important it is. We will see from this session how important temperance is. What is temperance? Temperance is a total abstinence from that which is harmful and a sensible and discretionary use of that which is good and safe, especially when it comes on to what we put into our bodies. So again, temperance is a total abstinence from that which is harmful and a judicious use of that which is good. Water is good, but if we drink too much of it, it's not good for our bodies. We must use a discretionary amount of water. Someone said half your weight in ounces is the amount of water you need on average every day. The purpose of temperance. Temperance was designed by God to keep us safe from the foods that harm our bodies. Another purpose of temperance is to make this world a more livable and enjoyable place. Temperance contributes to our physical, mental, and spiritual health. The benefits of temperance. It benefits us in the following ways. We avoid harmful substances by practicing good temperance. It helps us to control what we put in our bodies. It helps us to control our eating habits, and it gives us control over tempting and appealing lifestyles. The necessity of temperance. How necessary is temperance? If we do not practice true temperance, we will die immediately, we will die slowly, or we'll die quickly, or even prematurely. Regardless of which category an individual finds himself in, he is ultimately killing himself. And it is premeditated murder. And of course, no rational human being wants to kill himself. What about temperance in the Bible? The first indication of temperance in the Bible was found in Genesis chapter 2, verses 16 and 17. It says that God commands man to not to eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And he also told man that death would follow disobedience. But in Genesis chapter 3, verse 7, man disobeys God and he loses his clothes. And he becomes naked and he uses fig leaves to cover his nakedness, which was not enough. So we can see that if we disobey God and we live intemperate lifestyle, we are exposing ourselves to the onslaughts of Satan. In 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17, it says that if we defile our bodies, God will destroy us. And if we do not repent and forsake our intemperate lifestyles. So we see that temperance is very, very important. We may eat nutritious food, but if we are not temperate even with the good food, then it is wrong. And we are killing ourselves. And the Bible says in Exodus chapter 20, that we should not kill. And all killing is wrong. All killing or premeditated murder is sin. So I hope you got something from this presentation, and I will turn it over back to Dr. Sharps. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now that we see, we've seen, can you see my presentation? Okay, great.
Yes.
We've heard about exercise and temperance. And the first practical thing is that you want to exercise temperance with is exercise. A lot of people are over-exercising. They're exercising 2, 3, 4 hours at a time. every day. You know, even the Bible tells you need a day of rest. You need to work within your capacity and requirements. So the first thing you need to exercise temperance with is exercise. And then what we're going to talk about, you want in terms of temperance, you want to avoid no foods. Let's see what those are. You want to avoid things that are harmful and do those things that are good in moderation, which is what was just said. So what are some of those no foods that you should be avoiding? Because they're potentially harmful and compromise our functional integrity. And what are some good things that we do wrongly? Now, I had to cut down, and we did 6 out of the 8, and we need to get to these last 2 elements. So I'm just going to make a couple of summary points. In terms of avoiding no foods, these are they. If you have any questions on them, we have to come back to it because we basically are short on time. I see there's one, I think that I saw one question in the chat. I'm going to get to that. And any other questions you put in there, and those that we missed, I'll show you how you get all your questions answered. But as a quick summary, all milk and dairy are mucus forming and acid producing. They're most mucus forming, acid producing foods you can put in the body. And it's a great host for the proliferation of viruses and bacteria, et cetera. You want to avoid the known sensitivities, gluten, GMO, et cetera. Carbs, sea salt, I'm going to come back to. That's one of those people that people make a religion out of, and can be very, very problematic. I'm going to talk about it 2 more times, but let me go quickly. Chocolate can be an issue. We talked about the unclean meats. You want to minimize meat if you're under 12, because that's a no food for them. Their digestive juices aren't mature enough, not strong enough, and we talked about nuts and seeds before. And there are a whole host of substitutes that you have. Let's go to some of those things good things that we do that we might be doing wrongly. And the first one is water that I want to talk about, that we talked about earlier. Well, there's water, there's vitamin B12, C, D. All these things are good. Even sea salt, if you need it, is good. And we don't have time to go through all of these, but the rule of thumb essentially is doing all good things based on both your requirements and capacities. And I want to come back to that. So let me just make one quick statement on all of these in the interest of time. And the first one is water. The systematic sipping of distilled water is best. Why do I underline systematic? And you notice I said that earlier when we talked about nutrition and water. Now we come back to it. Many people are drinking too much water wrongly. Good water, you need it, but you heard it said that we need 8 glasses a day. Where did that come from? Most people, they don't know. They heard it, even me. This is what I learned in naturopathy school. But if you go back and look at the original study, there's not a whole lot of studies. There's one in 1921, and basically what it showed was this one individual, he basically was measuring, and he did a very good measurement. He measured the amount of urination he was doing, and it amounted to the total quantity. Basically amounted to 3% of his body weight, and that came out to he was about 130 pounds. So 3% was about 4 pounds. The other study, sort of, is they took a 128-pound woman at rest, and they looked at what her requirements were. Now, most of us aren't a 128-pound woman at rest. But this particular study, which is very limited, very valid, is reliable. It was valid for that one person. Remember, we talked about individual capacities and requirements. Half her body weight at 128 pounds is 64 ounces. 64 divided by 8. That's where they got the 8 glasses from. But it really doesn't make much sense. And again, the 4 pounds. I don't know if you know this, but a gallon of water is about 8 pounds. So a quart is about 1 pound. So 2 quarts is 4 pounds, and that's 8 glasses. So you got to look at some of these things, and a lot of people aren't questioning these things. I don't have time to spend on a lot of these, so I'm going to summarize it in the last part because I really got to get to these last 2 elements. But I'll just ask the question now: are you assimilating them? Nut butters and nuts, which is good. Are you digesting them? Sea salt, It can cause cholesterol buildup in vegetarians. There's a lot of vegetarians that have high cholesterol, and it's the sea salt. Again, I'll come back to that in the very last portion of this. And then protein drinks. People are taking too much protein. And this final test that I'm going to talk about, it basically tells you if you are digesting and using your protein, or you're just spilling it out. Is it undigested protein, which is actually causing stress on the heart and can cause a heart attack? That's why you see some vegetarians, they're doing all these good things, but they're doing them wrongly. And it could be the key to why they're having some issues. So you want to stay to the end and let me help me to answer your questions. And I'm going to show you how we're going to do that, all of that for you. And clean meats, even those, can you really digest them? This mathematical formula for perfect health will give you how you can measure that. And again, the rule of thumb is doing all good things based on your requirements and capacities. I can't say that enough. Your requirements and capacities, not your best friends, not this expert and the diet that worked for him or her, which is making you sick. And there are a lot of good things in there, but they're not right for you. We're going to come back to that based on your age, weight, height, gender, occupation, genetics. And remember, we said earlier, you want to take advantage of signing up a health partner to help you through some of these things. Get your health age, and then we're going to show you how you can continue in enhancing your understanding and application of these practical things. But right now, let's start going into the gun lap, that final lap. Let's look at the divine prescription for rest. And then we're going to look at the end, what percentage of your vitality, health and vitality, comes from rest. And we're going to talk about the mathematical rationale for all of these, for all the rest of the things that contribute to health and vitality. And that underline, you see a capital V, vitality, health and vitality. And then I'll tell you the key to all of this. But right now, let me turn this over to the next to the last of those laws of health, very powerful one, rest.
Thank you, Dr. Sharps. Thank you so much. We're just blending well together with this information. So rest, what does it matter? Okay, so we've looked at all this information, and they're basic things, and they are all very important. As we think about rest, so much goes on while we're sleeping, and when we don't get enough sleep, we really don't benefit. We might get other things done, but it doesn't help our body. The REM period of sleep is very important. At that time, our blood circulation does increase, and the oxygen levels that actually raise in the blood tissues, we want to be able to do that, absorb more amino acids. And our body actually goes through repairs, different things that need to be repaired, that occurs at night. Scientists say that not getting enough sleep over time, it actually, if you do get enough sleep, you're going to have less of a chance of having neurological diseases such as Alzheimer's. And we know that that is something that is almost plaguing us at this time. Also, we're concerned about viruses, and we know we need our immune system to be working well. If we're not getting enough sleep, that's going to be a problem for us. And now this one is interesting. If you're not getting enough sleep, it may affect your weight. There are two hormones that help regulate hunger, ghrelin and leptin. These are affected by when we're not sleeping. Ghrelin, the first one, stimulates appetite, and leptin decreases it, but it's not functioning properly when we're not getting enough sleep. Cardiovascular disease is a large problem here in America, And again, the amount of sleep, if you're getting less than 5, it can double the risk of death from cardiovascular disease. Sleep is very important for us. So ways that we can get better sleep: you can certainly turn off your lights and avoid using electronic devices just before bed. That one is pretty difficult, I'm sure, for a lot of us. We're so connected to our devices. If we get on a schedule, a sleep schedule, and getting to bed at the latest 10 p.m., it can benefit us a great deal, because the amount before midnight can be up to twice worth the amount after midnight. And then your digestion should be done by the time you're going to bed. So you want to have your last meal at least 3 hours before your bedtime. People may try to get more sleep by taking sleeping pills. It doesn't benefit you as much as it could, because your body's not doing the work that it needs to while you're sleeping with the help of sleeping pills. And another thing that you can do, because you want to be peaceful when you're going to sleep, you can spend some time thinking about the things that you're grateful for, and that will help you sleep better, as well as resolving any problems that you're having within your relationships. That helps you sleep better as well. And definitely, you probably don't want to exercise just before going to bed. It'll wire you up too much and keep you from falling asleep likely. So how much sleep is needed? 7 to 8 hours in general, and infants, it says, is needed up to 18 hours, young children, 10 to 12 hours. Older children and teenagers need about 9 hours, and senior citizens need about that amount too, 9 hours. And so when we talk about rest, it's not just sleeping. It's important to spend some of your day relaxing, take breaks when you're working, and just go take a walk outdoor, clear your mind, breathe some fresh air. And also, at least one day per week, it is good to take a rest from your work. The Lord says, "Come unto me, all of you who are tired from carrying heavy loads, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke and put it on you, and learn from me, because I am gentle, humble in spirit, and you will find rest. For the yoke I will give you is easy, and the load I will put on you is light." A few words from our Lord, who will give us rest. Thank you for being here. And as we're wrapping up, I'm going to once again give the floor over to Dr. Sharp.
Thank you very much. Hopefully you can see this. I looked at the chat. I see a couple of questions in there. One of them reminded me of a point I needed to make on the systematic drinking of water, and I'll make it when I answer that question. But let me go through quickly the rest of my presentation so that we can get to the last part of this and show you how we're going to be able to answer all of your questions. And I'm going to do the best I can now to finish up. I had to make some quick changes, but I'm going to show you how we're going to basically fill in the blanks for all the things that we committed to share with you at the outset of this seminar series. So rest, what percent of our health and vitality comes from rest? That was a brilliant presentation, talked about the importance of it. All waking hours are catabolic activities. It tears down the body. The only rebuilding can take place only during rest. Very important, a rest. And you need to go through the full cycle, the full 4 cycles. And the fourth part of that cycle is where you get the high. It's only about 20 minutes, but you have to go through those first 3 cycles of the delta and the omega, all the way up to that highest quality of sleep right after REM, that 20 minutes where you have the highest amount of healing. So rest is important, sleep is important, and also the timing is important. As she noted, before midnight, that circadian cycle is designed for rest, and it's very important to get as much as you can in those hours before, because each hour before is the equivalent of 2 hours. So from 9 o'clock to 12 is equivalent of 2 hours afterwards. Very important practical things. But let's go through and talk about a couple of things with regard to rest. a couple of practical things in the spirit of just making a couple of quick points. Eat less food. Remember we said diet is.
All right, thank you. All right, brother Sam. All right, God bless. Huh?
Ian, can you turn off your mic, please?
Oh.
Thank you. A light diet, primarily of fruits and vegetables, something like what Glenn put together earlier. Digestion takes up more energy, remember we said earlier, and provides both the needed rest and the phytonutrients for building the immune system. So you see how you get the synergistic effect by combining these laws. Again, periodic fasting is very powerful, provides very powerful rest for the system for enhanced healing. And there's 4 types of fast. Won't go into any detail, but basically there's a complete fast, no food or drink. I don't recommend that without serious supervision. A partial fast, which is primarily water and juices, broths. Rotational fast, that means you're just restricting certain foods from the diet, like meat. You eat it on a periodic basis, every 3 or 4 days, as opposed to every day. And that's a fast that everybody can do. The first 2 might require some supervision. And the last one, everybody can do. Is a restricted fast, just eliminating certain foods from the diet, meat or dairy or salt or whatever from the diet completely. So let me just leave it at that for now, but a very, very powerful way of combining food, the nutrition part, with this law of rest and the law of temperance. So you start to see how they're kind of integrated, and there's a synergistic effect. So remember we asked, what percentage of your health and vitality comes from rest? Remember before, air was what, 56%, water 15%, food 5%, rest is a whopping 24%. So most of your vitality, health and vitality comes from air and rest, and then water, and then food. What's the mathematical rationale? And I'm going to show you a system real quick that pulls all this together for you in summary. So let's look at the mathematical rationale. And let's look at the number of days you can live without food. We know 40 plus days. Jesus, Elijah, Moses, they all fasted for 40 days for more than on food and water. No, neither food nor drink. And so you say, yeah, but that's the Bible. That's different times. Well, I did my internship at a supervised fasting facility in California, and there was one person there. Now he was big guy. He was over 300 pounds, but he fasted for 100 days, nothing but water. So it can be that I can't do it. I don't have enough. If you guys can see me, I'm built for flight, not for fight. So I don't have a whole lot to give, but I can still fast for 10 to 15 days on just water or liquids. And then water, though, you can live for 5 to 10 days without it. Rest, only 3 to 5 days. You can't live that long without it. How long can you live without air? How many days? You can't live more than 3 to 5 minutes. So basically, you get, even if you eat food, you get 3 meals a day. 2 is better than 3. But if you put in temperance, etc., and what your requirements are, but even if you're a grazer, eat 7, 10 times a day, how many meals of air do you get? You get 10 to 20 per minute. So you're breathing and all this, and people forget a lot of those nutrients are in air. You can't see it, but it's there. It's oxygen and hydrogen, and nitrogen is the largest component. So that's where a lot of your protein comes from. The most important element is nitrogen. You get it from the air. That's why you don't need the meat. The vegetables have more than enough to combine with the nitrogen in the air to put together the nucleus, the cell around, the element around which all protein has to be built around. Carbohydrates are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So fats and carbohydrates both have those 3 elements. The difference between them and protein requires a nitrogen element. So that's basically the difference from an elemental standpoint. So that's kind of the mathematical rationale. So there's more that can be said on this, but let me just leave it there from now, and I'll kind of wrap it up when I talk about the mathematical formula, show you another way that you can calculate this. So we talked about all the things that we're going to cover. We talked about how serious is the current pandemic. We went through that, conventional versus original medicine. We went through the disease model, the allopathic versus the original medicine model. We talked about the 10 underlying causes of all disease. So we covered a lot of territory, faster than perhaps I wanted to, but we did kind of lay it out for you. And we talked about what percentage of our food contributes to vitality and the other was, so now you know the whole picture. And we talked about what are some of the natural PPE for all diseases and for all viruses. You saw that with the presentations on the 7 laws. We have one left. Hold on, we kind of come to it. What are some of the good things that some people are doing wrongly? What are some powerful natural? Let's do these last 2 very quickly. Again, I had to make some adjustments, but this natural first aid kit, and my wife is good at putting these first aid kits together. You can see one here. She makes this big old nice super duper one. I'll show you what I wanted to do is kind of lay it out. We really don't have the time, but I'm going to show you how we're going to be able to cover this in more detail. But you know, you want to start putting together your own first aid kit. And the kind of things you want to buy is the things that could treat all these things, you know, burns and topical injuries, bug bites, stings, muscle strains, sprains, digestive, bacterial, viral issues. And here's some of the basics. She has this nice bag, has all of these in here and more. You see it has a nice strap on it. In an emergency, you can run and put it in the car with you. And then you even can get to a nice quickie that you can run out of the house with. And I'm going to show you some of the things you put in there. Here's one that when I'm traveling in the car, I can have a lot of these things. And then here's some of my favorite go-tos. Here's the kind of things that you can put in there. And on this next chart, oregano oil, echinacea, and golden seal are 3 of the most powerful antiviral bacterial nodes. You know, so you get your little bit of oregano oil, you get your cayenne. You see that there. My go-to is this echinacea golden seal. You know, just enough in there to, on the road, you feel a little tickle in the throat or whatever. But you want to get some of these things. I don't have time to go through all of these. I'm going to show you, but you can get an idea of, I put 20 here. There can be others based on, you see at the bottom, your personal favorites. I have this special salve. You see herbal salves in the second column that basically has ginger and peppermint and a few other different herbs that are very good for muscle sprains. I compete nationally as a senior Olympian. So that's the herbal salve of choice that I make sure that I have my little fair share of. I have my little honey. So these are nice things, and I'm going to show you how you can get a hold of these. But let me go to the last thing. And I wanted to spend at least 3 or 4 or 5 minutes, but I only have 30 or 40 seconds. This is the assessment tool that I was referring to for measuring personal health and vitality. It's called Ream's biological theory of ionization. And it combines the most powerful health system, which is what we've been talking about, with the most powerful analytical tool for demonstrating and showcasing God's natural laws of health. And see these numbers up here? It basically tests your urine and saliva. You see all these things down here. I don't have time to go through all of them, but what this is telling you, it tests your oxygen availability, the amount of salts in the body. This second set of numbers is everybody can get pH paper and check their urine and saliva pH, and it can tell you whether or not you're digesting your protein, your nuts and seeds, or if your colon is congested, if your liver is too congested, if your bile is too weak. You can see all of the things here. But let me just quickly go through to show you how we can give you more information for some of these things that we had to rush through. This is a range and zone chart for RBTI, and just notice the light blue. When you chart your numbers, you can be all over the place. You see A, B, C, D, and E, and basically what you want to do is see where you are, and based on where you are, these different zones impact your mineral deficiencies, your mineral shortages, your deficiencies, what your requirements are, and systemic issues, blood sugar, cholesterol. I mean, you see all of this here. And what you want to do is get your numbers as much into this blue zone, which is where you get the optimal healing. So you hear me talking about capacities and requirements all the time. This is the test that helps you to understand individually, how is your body working? It's your urine and saliva, not your neighbors, not your friends, not your families, not this expert out there. So it shows you how you can individualize the application of all of these laws. And one of the things I did want to talk to is, for example, the water issue. This will show you if you're drinking too much water, and water should be sipped. And the most your body can handle at a time is 4 ounces. So those people that are drinking 2 or 3 or up to a quarter of water at a time is actually a problem. Don't have time to go through all the details, but that's part of that doing good things wrongly. So your questions and answers, as we running out of time, I don't know if we're gonna have time at the end. I'll stay if you want to, but you can contact us. If you want more information about the school, what we teach and everything, there's that www.iiomonline.com, and you can send your question to info@iiomonline.com, and we will do the best we can answer you. But this is the best one here. This IIOM free online health community that we've been running since March. It's IIOM HAH Health at Heart, and it's Mighty Networks. And every Tuesday at 2 p.m., that's what we do. We answer questions and we handle topics like water and water requirements, essential oils, fasting, the first aid kit. And if you want, for example, us to have an upcoming one, send a note to Dr. Elisa, and we can show you all much more about that. We can talk a little bit more about this mathematical formula for perfect health and a lot of the other things that we don't get together into the chat. So as I finish up, as we go to the last law, the Spanish flu versus COVID. Remember I said the most important lesson of the 5 was the last one? And the most important lesson that we learned from the Spanish flu from COVID-19 is that the most powerful PPE is a strong immune system. Not masking, not social distancing. The most powerful is a strong immune system. And we gave you 7 of those laws. We're going to go to the 8th and final one right now. But it's God's natural laws of health is what we learned is the most powerful system known to man for boosting your immune system, doing it in an integrated and in a concentrated, a thoughtful, rational process. There is no system more powerful than that. So what we're going to do is go to the final law, but in case you have to leave and you're not there for any further questions and answers, I'll see how the moderator wants to do this. On behalf of myself and Dr. Elisa, we want to wish you, and the LBM, we want to wish you health, happiness, and God's richest blessings as you continue to pursue your goals to outrageous health and vitality. So let me turn it over to the last piece. And like I said, I'll be happy to stay here. Let me answer one question, please, before you go. There was a question on water. Should it be cool water or cold water? The answer to that question is never put anything cold in your body. It puts the body into shock. It causes the liver to go, the kidneys to go into spasm. And so it just basically recoils on you. So you want, the best is the room temperature or a little bit warmer. You don't want it too hot either. That could be enervating. But room temperature is best. And so again, if you go to somebody's house or you go to a restaurant and they serve you a glass of ice water, don't throw it into the waiter's face. Don't curse out your gracious host that might not know this. Don't give them a lecture on water. Basically, what do? You cook it in your mouth. You don't have to chug-a-lug it. And again, you only need about 2 to 4 ounces at a time anyway, based on your weight and height, etc. So let me end with that. Again, I want to thank you for your time and kind attention. This is your last commercial break. And then again, we'll see how they want to proceed with any further questions. But I just showed you a way that we intend to answer all your questions. So if you send to info@IIOM Online, or you want us to do something, or you want to look at some of the past tapes that we've done on the topic you might be interested in from the either the Ask the Doctors or the Mighty Networks, the IIOM, HAH, Health at Heart, then you can let us know, and we'll be happy to have you be a part of our ongoing health community. Thank you again for your time and kind attention. Here's the last part, the last law.
Thank you, Dr. Sharp. And let me get this going here. Are we good? Okay, once again, my name is Maury Mungeon, and I will be talking about trust. Of course, not last but not least. So what do we mean when we say trust? Trust is a bold, confident, sure security or action based on that security. Let me let you know, this is a theological definition of the word trust. Trust is not exactly the same as faith. Rather, trusting is what we do because of the faith we have. So the question is, to whom shall we put our complete trust in? Is it man or God? 2 Samuel 22:31 says, "As for God, his way is perfect. The word of the Lord is tried. He is a buckler to all them that trust in him." Not only is God saying his ways are perfect, but to those who may not have a full understanding of him, he's saying, try me, put me to the test. Let me show you how much I love you. One of my favorite texts is found in Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6, which says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path." Because of our understanding of life is limited to what we may have read or experienced, we can only see but so far. But the God of heaven and earth, who knows our tomorrows, the great healer, wants to do so much for us if we let him. Talk to him, and he will guide you. Isaiah 26:3 says, "Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on thee." Why? Because he trusteth in thee. Studies have shown that trusting in God helps develop better relationships. And I didn't know if you knew this or not, but it also helps with a better family life. Helps you feel better about yourself. You have a better attitude. Your self-esteem gives you a better self-worth about yourself. Helps you feel better about yourself. It relieves stress. Better health leads to better health. And also, as we mentioned, peace, especially with what we're dealing with these days. An interesting text is found in Exodus chapter 15 and verse 26. And it says, "If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and wilt do that which is right in his sight, and will give ear to his commandments and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians. For I am the Lord that healeth thee." Now, this is what's called a conditional promise. And I really want you to understand the principle of what this is saying. Let me give you an example. Suppose you are unemployed, praying for a job. So Monday comes And on Monday, you finally decide to roll out of bed around 11:30 in the morning, and you grab some breakfast and watch a little TV, take a nap, and Tuesday the same thing, and Wednesday now. Are you expecting a job to fall out of the sky somewhere? No. You must have to make an effort. An effort must be made in order for you to find a job. There are some, even with today's presentations, there are some that are faced with challenges or challenging health issues that will require some drastic lifestyle changes. The great healer says, you do your part and trust in me. The last slide that I would like to bring to you in closing is found in Ecclesiastes 7:17. And this is another interesting slide. A lot of people don't realize this is in the Bible. But it says, be not overmuch wicked, neither be thou foolish. Why shouldest thou die before thy time? And I'm sure most of you heard this statement when someone dies. Well, I guess it was their time. I'm not here to debate whether that statement is accurate or not. But look at it this way. The lack of nutrition, the lack of exercise, and what we discussed this evening, water, sunlight, temperance, air, rest, and trust will all decrease your life expectancy. But on the contrary, if we implement these actions in our lives, would it not add years to our life? God has a plan for each one of us. And part of that plan is to prosper and be in good health, even as thy soul prospers. Love your life. With that said, I hope everyone has enjoyed the program for this evening. We want to do so much more for you guys. All those that are watching, we plan on having more programs as far as maybe stop smoking seminars. We know we're talking about budgeting seminars and other things that we would like to do. So we are asking that you all remember to, we're putting our information in the chat box. If you need to contact us, Dr. Sharp also has left information for everyone to contact on having or getting a lot of your questions answered. So that's another form of communication that we would love to communicate with you on. And just keep us in prayer. We know that what's been said is it's kind of unconventional to a lot of people as far as healing. Most people are used to just running to the doctors, and we appreciate doctors and what they do. But there are other ways that God wants us to take control of our health. So with that said, once again, thank you so much. And I am going to say a word of prayer to close us out. And then you can carry on with the rest of your day. Shall we pray? Father, once again, we thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to share what you've given us, your plan from the beginning when you created Adam and Eve, and just the healing methods of what you've given us to, even if we run up against some type of sickness or disease or ailments, you've given us natural remedies that we can definitely go to help us in helping our bodies to cure itself. And we know that, of course, you are the great healer. So we thank you, Lord, for being so merciful to us. May you continue to be with us as we progress in what we've learned this evening. Help us to not allow these valuable nuggets that was spoken about this evening fall on deaf ears, but help us to take these things and put them into action. And again, as I read, you want us to prove your word to us. You want us to put you to the test. Help us to do that. That's where you want to be, so that you can show us that you are the great healer. And then once that happens, help us, Lord, also to take that and share with our neighbors and our families and friends, so that everyone will get to know you. So we thank you. May you continue to be with us throughout the rest of the evening and until we can meet again. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Again, thanks everyone. And don't forget to share your information with us. We've put out a couple of links for you to check your health age, as well as get more information on how to contact us to have a health partner, someone who can encourage you, that you can communicate with. And also Dr. Sharp, if you miss his information, get in contact with us and we will definitely pass that information on to you. Once again, thank you so much for being with us. Have a good evening.